Deep in the jungle, where mist clung to the trees like whispers of forgotten souls, stood a lone cabin. Its roof sagged with age, and vines crept over the walls, as though the jungle sought to reclaim it. Inside, Ezra sat by the dim light of a candle, sharpening his blade. His face was rough, marked with scars from battles both physical and emotional. To the villagers, he was no mere man. He was a creature of the jungle, a monster in human guise. But they didn't know the truth. Years ago, Ezra's life was stolen by a real monster, a beast of shadow and claws that had descended on his village during a night of celebration. It had slaughtered everyone he loved, leaving Ezra the sole survivor, haunted by their screams and the image of the creature's glowing eyes. Vowing vengeance, he left what remained of his home and took to the jungle, where he lived as a hunter of monsters. For years, he survived alone, consumed by his mission. Then, one day, a scream shattered the silence of the jungle. Ezra followed the sound and found a young woman, cornered by a beast with gnarled teeth and blood-streaked fur. Without hesitation, he loosed an arrow, striking the creature through the heart. As the monster fell, Ezra helped the woman to her feet. "Thank you," she said breathlessly, her dark eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. "I thought I was going to die." Ezra studied her for a moment, his voice rough from disuse. "You shouldn't be here. The jungle isn't safe." Despite his warning, the woman, Elara, she introduced herself, refused to leave. Intrigued by the mysterious hunter who had saved her life, she insisted on staying, claiming she needed to learn how to defend herself. Ezra resisted at first, but her persistence wore him down. Slowly, she became part of his isolated world, tending to his wounds, helping him cook meals, and even drawing out rare moments of laughter. As the days turned to weeks, Elara began to share her own story. She was an orphan, she told him, adopted by a wealthy family who were feared and shunned by their community. Though they had raised her with kindness, she admitted there was always something strange about them. When she was a teenager, they vanished without explanation, leaving her to fend for herself. Ezra listened intently, a dark suspicion growing in his mind. Her words unearthed memories he had buried long ago, of whispers about a cursed family who had lived in a mansion on the outskirts of his village, rumored to be more than human. Could it be the same family? Driven by this thought, Ezra began searching the jungle for the mansion Elara had described. When he found it, the crumbling structure loomed like a graveyard monument, its walls blackened with decay. Inside, he discovered old paintings of Elara's adopted family. They were depicted in grotesque, half-transformed states, their faces twisted with monstrous features. His heart stopped when he saw the beast from his nightmares among them. Elara found him staring at the paintings. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They couldn't have done that. They loved me." Ezra turned to her, his voice cold and distant. "Love doesn't erase what they did. They killed my family. They destroyed my village." He hesitated before adding, "But you're not one of them. You said you were adopted." Elara's tears fell silently. "I had no part in their sins. Please, Ezra, don't let your vengeance destroy what we found." Ezra's jaw tightened, but he couldn't bring himself to turn his anger on her. Instead, he focused on the task ahead. The spirits of Elara's adopted family still haunted the jungle, preying on travelers and villagers alike. Together, they prepared for the final confrontation. Word of their battle plan reached the village. Though the villagers had long feared Ezra, the sight of his courage and determination stirred something in them. Armed with torches and weapons, they followed him into the jungle, ready to fight. The final battle was a whirlwind of fire and shadow. Ezra, Elara, and the villagers faced the spectral forms of her monstrous family. The spirits were powerful, their wails piercing the night, but the combined strength of the hunters and villagers proved stronger. One by one, the ghosts fell, until the mansion itself burned to the ground, taking the last of their evil with it. As the first rays of dawn broke through the trees, the villagers gathered around Ezra. For the first time, they saw him not as a monster, but as a savior. "You're a hero," the village elder said. "Will you come back to the village?" Ezra shook his head. My fight is over, but this is my home now. Someone has to keep watch. Ilara stayed by his side, helping him rebuild his life. The villagers, now grateful, often visited with supplies and stories, bridging the gap between them and the man they had once feared. Ezra's journey of vengeance had ended, but in its place, he found something unexpected: peace. And though the jungle remained wild and untamed, it was no longer a place of fear. With Ezra as its guardian, it became a sanctuary, a place of redemption for a man once consumed by his past.